Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's 8 days to go before Election Day, and this is your countdown. Hello again, welcome. You're watching Decision 2018 Countdown. So we're going to keep this going Mondays through Thursdays at 7 p.m. on via Channel 4 and 504, as well as streaming live on Facebook up until the day before Election Day. So we're inviting various guests, including these two right here that you see with me. I will introduce them to you in a little while. But we encourage you to tune into via Channel 4, 504, and Facebook Live to tune into Countdown, Decision 2018 Countdown. And we hope that the topics that we discuss will help you become more informed as you head to the polls on November 6th. So without further ado, let me introduce our guests for this episode of Countdown. We have Judi Shimel with us. Judi, welcome.
Morning.
Is a veteran journalist. She has 38 years of experience, if you can believe it. Judi has been in journalism for a very long time. She's worked for TV2, WSTA, Radio 1, right?
Yes, I was news director at Radio 1.
Wow. So, and then Judi has experience in both broadcast and print, and she's also worked in New York and Washington, D.C.
Capitol Hill.
Yeah. Judi used to be producer for TV2 News as well. And also we have Jason Charles. Jason Charles, we joke around that Jason is our resident economist. He doesn't like that title, but we kind of look to him for insight on economic development. Jason does come from an economic development background. He joined the team of Master Strategies USVI in 2015. And then going back several years, in 2007, he was actually Chief Application Investigator at the Economic Development Authority. Jason is highly skilled in EDC laws and regulations. He also is a certified compliance professional, and he has a lot of experience in EDC compliance. Jason also has a radio show, Ideas and Issues, and it airs at WSTA when?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. So make sure you watch out for that. And Jason also volunteers at Junior Achievement as well. Okay, so let's get right to it. Earlier we were talking about different topics, and I was asking you guys about your insight on where this election ranks and how it compares to previous elections in terms of how exciting it is. I'm pretty excited. We have like 7 people running for governor, and we have senators who left their seats to join the race. What are the things that strike you the most about this election? Ladies first.
I think this election is not the most exciting election.
Okay.
I haven't spent one day, no, I shouldn't say that. There might have been one day where we had to go into court with something that was related to this election. In 2014, it seems like we were in court
a lot.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you couldn't walk out of the courthouse door fast enough before you heard that there was another hearing you had to attend because somebody else had something that they had to bring up.
It was pretty chaotic.
Well, it was more than chaotic because it was covering things, not just people and issues, it was also covering technology. That was the year that a judge decided that the new electronic tabulator, not a voting machine, could not be used because it wasn't calibrated to conform with Title 18 of the Virgin Islands Code, otherwise known as the Virgin Islands Election Handbook.
Which has not been updated to keep up with technology as well. And I think that, that was the first time, I believe, that DS-200s were being used in the election. Jason, what do you think?
Well, from a perspective of the people, I think it's an interesting race because a lot of people are very quiet about where they're going to go. You do have the supporters of all the different camps that are very active, that are going out there and they're pushing their message. But I also think there's, if I have one-on-one conversations with individuals, what I'm hearing is a sense of apathy. So my biggest concern in this election cycle, and I think all candidates should be, is to make sure that we can be able to get people to go out and vote. There's a lot of disappointment in the process. They're not happy year after year to see the same problems, and they're electing new people, they're changing people. But it seems that it's persistent. The roads are still bad. Schools are still bad. Buildings are still full of mold. and just the general cycle of things are not
Right.
improving over time. So people are just dissatisfied with their government leaders from
And,
the top to the bottom.
Right, and then on the other hand, you also have Carolyn Fox, the election supervisor, surpassing her goal of registering 50,000 voters. I think she went up to 51,000 something.
And that is interesting. But what you're seeing there is that you're seeing that the campaigns, I must compliment the Brandon Roach campaign for actually going out there and really trying to register new voters. You know, I've seen them at the different. I try to pop up at different places. You know, when you see they're doing the pop up. With new citizens, when you become sworn citizens, naturalization process. I'm seeing their team out there,
Right.
Along with the Gene Ford team. They're out there registering new voters. So you're seeing that there are people who are really pushing. These campaigns are really pushing new voters and trying to get more people in the rolls to be able to facilitate getting more voters. But we'll see what happens. But they're quiet about who they're voting.
Right, and what do you think about how the different gubernatorial teams are doing so far in terms of their campaigning? I see a lot of social media ads.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, YouTube, whatever it is that you're watching, and then on Facebook, you watch a video, an ad comes up, and it's almost always a local politician.
Well, you know what? The dynamics are changing, and that is good. That is really good to see that the election process, the way that we campaign, is starting to change. You know, before, back in the 90s, early 2000s, a lot of your reach was basically through radio and newspaper, print media, and that was pretty expensive. But on Facebook, you can be able to get the level of exposure that you want, and it's a lot cheaper. You know, you could use the Google's algorithms to be able to push your messages out there. It's still a lot cheaper. So
Right.
the print media and the radio now are suffering economically because there's this new avenue. But the challenge is with our community, a lot of our community, the registered voters, the older voters, don't really have a Facebook account. So you have to be able to have a multifaceted approach to presenting your message to the community.
Attack
So,
all mediums.
Yeah, you have to attack all mediums, and you have to really manage your budget to be able to do that. You're gonna have to recognize that your priorities are gonna be radio if you know that the consistent voters are radio. For the voters that are outside of the territory, that you know you have absentee after the hurricane, people that leave, the best way to reach those individuals is through Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. For the younger ones, those are the areas that you want to really capitalize and make your most impact on.
Right.
So you, as a candidate, you have to be very careful. You have to really manage how you spend your dollars in terms of advertising.
And then there's also a sense that candidates have to be more aware that they can be held accountable now, because when you go to the radio or TV, there's no opportunity for people really to give feedback. But with social media, everybody can post and share, and you know, if you mess up, you get you get people holding you accountable.
It's a changing world. It's definitely a changing world, and it's interesting because you have to be very careful about the things that you see. If you look at what's happening now, a lot of I saw an ad recently which speaks against the governor of the Virgin Islands, Governor Kenneth Mapp, and they ran all the newspaper articles over the period of 4 years. You know, just all those articles, and so it was interesting because I was like, wow, these are all the things that have happened over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So you know, that's one perspective.
I'm
But
sorry,
as a-
Jason. We're going to have to hold
Sure.
that thought, because we need to take a little break, and then you're watching Decision 2018 Countdown. We're here with Judi Shimel and Jason Charles. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Decision 2018 Countdown. 8 days to go before Election Day. We have Judi Shimel with us, veteran journalist, and Jason Charles, who has a lot of experience in economic development. In this segment, we're going to talk about GERS. So, the different gubernatorial tickets have given, their solutions to this long-standing problem. MAP was suggesting raising the cap on taxation of salaries, increasing government contributions by 3% per year for the next 3 years, and then half of all the profits for the new refinery should go to GRS. Brian identified rum cover over monies as a funding source, exploring sports gaming, gas and excise taxes. Mosler said to take advantage of the fact that the VI gets to keep its own income taxes. Soraya said just borrow the money outright, $2.8 billion from the Department of Treasury, and then put the governor and lieutenant governor's pensions in from GRS, aside from drawing from a special account. Mileto Smith said they have to move from a defined benefits program to a 401k, and then Millen Young says the government just needs to pay GRS what it owes. So do you think that these are viable solutions to this? Really, it's imminent, and it's an imminent threat. And Jason, you mentioned earlier that GRS, if it collapses, it'll wipe out 13% of the GDP.
Well, here's what my take on this is. And I'm going to be a bit long-winded, so indulge me for a second. Judy, please indulge me for a second. Okay. The GRS problem is a problem that's been kicked down the road year after year. Okay, and at some point, you get to the point where you can't kick anymore. We are at that moment where it cannot be kicked anymore. We did a study of what GRS spends in 2014, what their burn rate is. GRS burn rate is $100 million a year. $100 million a year. GRS used to be able to utilize, the employee contributions to support the beneficiaries and also investments. So at the end of an investment period, a quarter, they would use the dividends from those investments to be able to support paying the annuities as well as the active employees. It's at the point now where GRS has stopped investing. They've pulled their investment back because there's no more dividends, and they're selling off their investments. So there's no reason to have an investment officer anymore because there's no more investments to be able to gain benefits from, interest, dividends, if I can make it as easy as possible to say that. So they're selling off all their portfolio, right? And they still don't have anything to really subsidize or any real cash or revenue streams coming in. The governor has said that he is going to increase the contribution rates from its employees and the government. If you know the past, you would see that they haven't been able to pay what they've owed before. They haven't been able to make their quarterly or monthly contributions as discussed. So how can you tax or expect more from the employees as well as from the same government that you oversee to be able to pay more in? So that is just words should have meaning, and that does not make sense, and it does not have any meaning. So that's unfair. Now, when you look at all the other candidates, you have to look at viable plans. Right. What is realistic? What can happen, and how can we really happen? This is not something that you kick down the road. When you talk about rum covered over, that is something that we need to look at. That is something that is viable. When you talk about changing the 401k, changing from a what is it called?
A defined benefits program.
Yeah, into that. You're talking about something that's realistic and genuine, something that can actually work. But the key is right now is that whatever new industry comes to the Virgin Islands, it has to go, percentage of that industry, whatever revenues comes in, has to go towards subsidizing GRS. You cannot take any more from the employees, you can't expect any more from the government. You have to be able to stop the bleeding or triage the bleeding through new revenue streams that has to come from a new industry. So we need a new industry in the Virgin Islands. If it means having another rum company coming in, or if it means having, looking at ways that you can be able to cultivate marijuana and figure out a process by which you can be able to get a taxing benefit and use those to be earmarked that goes directly towards towards the GRS. That is what has to happen. The bottom line is you can't talk things that are not making sense. And these candidates, a lot of them don't have real solutions, and it's scary because they're acting to hold the highest office in the land.
Judy, what do you think? You've been covering this for a long time as well. Do you think that all of these solutions or these candidates can fix a GRS in one administration?
One of the reasons why I have a little background on GERS is because I spend a lot of time covering the courts. And recently I wrote a story as a roundup of all of the consent decree cases in the federal court. One of them is GERS. Goes back a long way. Was dormant for a while, but when GERS began to slip on its payments about 2 years ago,
3 years ago.
members of the pension system went to court and asked the court to reopen the consent decree case. Okay, that's a level of seriousness. That means that you have to show up and tell a federal judge what you're doing to fix this, and can kicking is out. You must come and you must answer questions under oath about what you've done to fix this problem. There was a major contribution that was done in the past couple of months that cleared up the backlog. However, at this point, the judge is not satisfied with the pronouncements of the system that they will be able to keep this up. He wants to see proof.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, there was a couple of months ago a politician I will not name who was standing outside of Emil Griffith Ballpark holding a sign. He was also seen at the Cruz Bay Traffic Circle holding a sign.
I don't think you need to name him. I think people know what you're talking about.
Well, if you've seen the image, you might have seen the photo of the senator who represents every island in the territory holding a sign, and I'm sure that he also held up the sign in a prominent place on St. Croix, where he also has constituents. Here's the point. Instead of taking this as a publicity stunt, I did a little digging when I wrote the story. What I found was that the Virgin Islands would benefit by doing two things. The first thing is to remember that this is an island, but as my mother used to say, no man is an island. Across the United States, the level of short payments on employer contributions to government pensions across the United States is at $5.6 trillion. Okay? There are 34 United States that are in deep trouble with their pension systems for their government employees, and about 3 of them are getting ready to take a major slide. So I think that it would help the Virgin Islands to kind of see what's going on in other places and how they're planning to tackle that problem, and then come back with both a local and a national approach to the way you're going to handle the pension system, because there are a lot of people who are going to suffer if nobody gets a grip on this. There are also 4 municipalities in the United States that have already defaulted on their pensions. One of them is a U.S. territory. I believe it's the Northern Mariana Islands. So maybe it's a good idea to see what happened with them and what you're going to do now.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you short. We're going to take a little break and then we'll be right back. We're going to try to circle back to that topic. This is Decision 2018 Countdown. We're here with Judi Shimel and Jason Charles. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Decision 2018 Countdown. We're here with Judi Shimel and Jason Charles. I know we left off talking a little while ago about GERS, and I want to get into the part where you guys kind of make projections. Not, you don't have to be very specific about it. We can take a look at whether you think there's going to be a runoff or not. We can look at the senatorial race as well, if you think independents are going to get in there. Or the ICM, or is the Democratic primary kind of what we're looking at in terms of the winners of the 7 seats for each district?
We just had a spirited discussion offline. You want to go first, or you want to go first?
Okay, good. After providing live coverage for Virgin Islands Carnival Queen contestants and St. John Festival Queen contestants for many years, there is one principle that I stand by always. Never, ever predict a winner, ever. You don't know what will happen. Anything could happen at all. Okay, a ceiling could fall in, and all of a sudden the only candidate you have is the one that was in the 6th position. So don't predict anything. Try to come up with some plausible ideas. Here's one that I will share with you. Okay. Watch out always for positions 6, 7, and 8, or 7, 8, and 9 in the senatorial race on any district, because those numbers have small margins between them and they shift all the time. Now, when Lorraine Berry was Senate President, The one reason Lorraine Berry got back into office time after time was because she thought of voters that nobody else thought of. People, for instance, in this category, people who left the Virgin Islands because of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, but didn't change their voting affiliation, did not register in the states, are still eligible for absentee ballots. Those candidates that reach out to that set of voters may find themselves making a difference on whether they're in or whether they're out. If they are in position 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, or 9 in a senatorial race.
And
That's
certainly
my
on St.
prediction.
Croix, Neville James is just 7 votes behind of Oakland Benta. That's, and a lot of people were saying that his place might not be, Benta's place might not be that secure.
Well, I'm not afraid to make predictions, but what I would say is
Let's go.
What I would say is that you're definitely going to have. I'm predicting a runoff.
Okay.
That's a safe predicament. I do think that the top organized teams will be the ones who are most organized that will be in the runoff. I do see the governor as one, and I do see the Brian Roach team as being the number 2 in the runoff. I don't know how the outcome is going to play at that point because, as you saw in the last gubernatorial race, those teams that didn't make it endorsed the current administration, and they were rewarded with jobs.
Positions,
so
yeah.
you don't know what's cooking in the background. You have no idea what's cooking on both sides in the background. So it's going to when that day comes is when you're going to see what really happens. As it pertains to the Senate race, it's going to be, I think it's going to be tight on St. Thomas. I think for as you said, the 5th,
Gene Ford
6th,
is at the
7th. Yeah, I think he has a lot to worry about. He still has to go up against another incumbent, which is Janelle Sarro. He has some other strong contenders out there, so I think he has to be really working really hard right now to ensure that he holds on to his seat. I can predict that I think the 2 top winners, the 2 top vote getters will be women this year.
Yeah.
I do think Allison Digazone and Alicia Barnes.
On St. Croix,
Yeah, but I do think Allison will come in as number 1 on St. Croix. I think,
And overtake Alicia Barnes?
And overtake Alicia. She's working very hard. She's young. She's very energetic. I think she's pushing. On St. Thomas, I do see Donna Fred Gregory as
taking top spot.
She's. I actually have a bet with Senator Marvin Blyden that that she's gonna overtake him in that race.
Well, she came out first in the primaries, and then Blyden.
Yeah, and then Blyden number 2, and he told me, he said, Jason, I don't think so. Most of my votes come during the general election, so I don't think she will. So I said, well, we'll bet on it. We have a nice gentleman's bet on that. But I'm having a lot of I believe that Donna Fred Gregory, she's been on the ground working really hard. She's pushing, really hard. I know that I'm seeing her people all over the place. She's been holding that Democratic flag really tall. So I do think that she's going to become very successful and be the number 1 vote getter. She has a lot of experience, just like Alicia. They've been in multiple positions in government. They know a lot of people. So I think she's going to take it.
Do you think that Leslie Commission was here the other day, and she said that we're going to have a gubernatorial runoff, and 2, that the candidate who wins the actual general election, even though there's a runoff, that person who comes out on top on general election day is likely going to be the winner in the runoff anyway. Do you agree with that?
So I disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because in the past, it's happened before where the number 2 finisher in the general went into the primary and won.
You mean the runoff?
Yeah, went into the runoff and won. The number 2 finisher in the general.
You remember?
I can't remember I can't. That was way. I don't even think I was born yet. But I think it was at that time. It was. I think at that time it was.
We should ask Judi, right?
Brian. I think it was. Deborah Bryan was the gentleman. I think it was. And who was the second one? Who did he overtake? Like he came up 1 in the general, but lost in the runoff.
I wonder if that was around 2006.
No, it's not 2000. No.
But we're in agreement that there is.
He wasn't running for Senate in 2006. He was back in like the early 2000s and the 1990s.
I'm talking about probably even in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and he lost. He came out first in the general, but went into the runoff. He lost.
Leslie mentioned Turnbull, though. Was that
no? Turnbull came 1 shot in the second run, in the second term. He had 7 candidates, I think, against him, and he came in one shot. He beat everyone.
right.
So I don't think that that's going to be the case this time around. I do think that it's going to be a runoff. I think that it's going to be a matter of how well organized your campaigns are and who can be able to elicit the most support to be able to get to victory. So
There's one thing
open
I
on
would
that.
like to add. Disasters favor the incumbent.
That's true. That is true.
You
People are
have
going to see Mapp as the one who
really
steered us
botch a
through 2
disaster
Category 5
response.
hurricanes. Yep.
Yeah,
Well-
you have to really botch a disaster response in order for it to hurt you in an election.
Right. Okay. So,
Go ahead. Oh.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I would
we can move
love
on.
for us to continue
Yeah,
talking,
let's
but that's actually all the time we have. And I wish that you guys could come back in future shows so we can continue these discussions, especially the spirited discussion you were having about GERS. So, thank you so much for being here, Jason Charles, Judi Shimel. We thank them for the insights, and we hope that they were able to get you more informed about your choices in the November 6th election. You're watching Decision 2018 Countdown. Please watch the show Mondays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. on Via Channel 4, 504, and streaming on Facebook Live. I'm April Knight. We'll see you next time.